Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. Kyle Schassburger and David Kahn with you as part of the College Sports Podcast Network. We're here for episode 2 of the regular season. We gave you a preseason episode, a Wake Forest takeover. If you missed that, go ahead and scroll back a few episodes as Kahn and I, the Hebrew Hammer, and Mr. Schass himself, we were invited to the Wake Forest baseball facilities and talks with a few All-Americans and the reigning ACC Coach of the Year, Tom Walter. Wake Forest, the unanimous number 1 team in the land. David Kahn went 3-0 over the weekend. You were there. We'll get to that and so much more. Just so much to unpack from weekend number 1 in college baseball. We've got midweek games that are taking over here this week, and we're going to try and recap as best we can as you and I are back for season 5 of this thing. We didn't get to really, get too emotional over this in our first regular season episode prior to the start of weekend number 1, but man, what a season that college baseball is shaping up to deliver us on the heels of LSU earning a national championship in a historic Omaha run. So, my man, I know you've been busy. You've been calling a lot of games. How we feeling? How did you take in baseball this past weekend? And where in the world is David Kahn? Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Because, my man, you've been all over.
Dude, I have been. It's crazy. I am exhausted. I will put it bluntly. If my voice is a little bit less than its usual dulcet tone, I apologize. It's been a week. Tonight will be my 9th game worked in 9 days when you combine my studio hosting duties, my games that I called, which I called 5 of them last week, and my ESPN stats game that I did last night watching Virginia Tech just wax Virginia. Holy smokes. I mean, Tony Bennett was in dire straits from the word go. So it's been a lot. I've done a lot of driving, but I got the chance to see, number 1, the Deeks over the weekend, called Saturday and Sunday's games. Chase Burns, let me tell you, Kyle Schassburger, we have seen him in Hoover. He was better than any time we saw him in Hoover the last 2 years. That dude was locked in from the word go. He went 14 up, 14 down. It should have been 15, but there was a horrendous ball 4 call that should have been strike 3 to end the 5th inning, and he would have been perfect through 5. He goes 6, 10 Ks, 3 hits, 1 walk, no runs, was popping 101 on the gun. I mean, just unreal to see that live and call it because he was so dialed in, and he told us in that Wake Forest baseball takeover, I can't wait to show people how much better I've gotten. He's gotten better. He's really, really good.
It would appear so.
He was so fun.
He was one of maybe 3 pitchers over the weekend that had topped triple digits on the radar gun, which we knew he could do. We asked him about that when we were at Wake last week, and he joined Josh Hartle, who got the Friday bump, the opening day start, and we also had Nick Kurtz to go along with Tom Walter, Bill Salento, and Corey Mascara as part of that takeover podcast. We'll get to more on Wake Forest. We're going to unveil a new segment here this year. We're going to call it, for right now, it's a working name. Khan's not in love with the name, but the Power 10. We're going to give you our 10 best teams, okay, that we love each and every week, and we'll do that coming out of the weekend on Tuesdays. Again, if you're new to the program, College Sports Now is our podcast network. We've rebranded. We're in 3D at Kyle Schass on Twitter, on X, at SportsCon4 on Twitter. Or X is David Kahn, but Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. So stay tuned. There'll be more as we roll out a lot more when it comes to social media, images, those sorts of things. But Kahn and I are to discuss the Power 10 here today, and we're going to podcast 1 time per week through the remainder of basketball season. That's what I'm getting at, Kahn. Throughout basketball season, as you referenced, we're torn in a lot of different directions. We're talking hoops. We're trying to cross over into the baseball realm and help deliver you some fine baseball content, some interviews that you won't hear anywhere else, and maybe you will, but you won't hear them done the way that we do them. And we're going to dig deeper, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We might talk about some film review, what we're watching away from baseball. We'll give you a lineup card, some matchups to watch each and every weekend. We'll talk about dudes, hat tips, all of these things. We'll try and merge in the best pop cultural influence that we can provide. That's about the best way I can do it. And with that, Con, before we go to the Power 10, I just came back from Chicago, okay? And I have brought you some delicious some real pizza, some authentic Chicago-style pizza. So before we get into the dudes, into the hat tips, into the Power 10, and we talk about our favorite teams. And, oh, by the way, we have a guest. I would be remiss not to tease that Forrest Allen, a data scientist, a data analyst with 643 charts. If you listen to Kyle and I back in the fall or the early winter offseason edition of College Sports Now, we talked about the DSR, the Diamond Sports Ranking, and how it can revolutionize the way baseball teams are talked about and evaluated. Not just teams, but also players.
Scouted.
And could it potentially replace replace at a later date, what the RPI has been doing in terms of fielding a tournament of 64 teams. We've got Forrest Allen on today's show, so stay tuned for that. He's coming up in about 20 minutes or so. We will get to Kahn and our conversation with Forrest Allen. But back to Pizza Kahn. Aurelio's, a Southside staple in the South suburbs where I'm from. Been doing it since 1959. Tell him Joe Aurelio sent you. The best tavern style in the entire world. Now, tavern style is your thin cut, square cut pizza. We have just warmed this up, so we want to make sure we get to it off the top. You have that, but and the toppings here, it's my personal favorite. I understand you may not be crazy about it, but peppers, mushrooms, spinach, and black olives. But I've also replicated those toppings in a pizza deep dish for you, and I know you want to dive into that first. So this is a deep dish piece of pizza from Aurelio's. As part of maybe thousands of pizza joints in Chicago's, but Aurelio's is one of the finest. So the honor is all yours.
Yeah, just take a look at this. I mean, first of all, for those who don't know, sauce on top is how we go with deep dish. And it just looks, loaded right now. Now, yes, I don't like peppers and black olives and mushrooms and really red sauce in general. Yeah, you are, because gains. But for you, Kyle Schassburger, for the people of Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers, we're doing it all. 2024, new podcast, new me, new us. Like, let's go.
Hopefully it's not the first time we're eating food and displaying our affection for what enters our body on this podcast in real time.
Yes. And by the way, you eat this with a fork and a knife.
Yes.
Yes, you do. Don't use your hands when you do deep dish. All right. So here we go.
All right. So for the podcast listeners, Kahn is inserting the fork with deep dish pizza from Aurelio's into his mouth. Otherwise known also as stuffed with peppers, mushrooms, spinach, black olives, sauce draped across the top. What do you think, my man? Now, again, I traveled 10 and a half hours with this in the car on ice, kept in the fridge overnight for 2 nights. This didn't come straight out of the oven for you, so this is microwaved here at our office at our Learfield headquarters. But what do you think, my man?
Listen, it's not bad. It really isn't.
Well, of course it's not bad. Come on. If you say it's bad, I'm going to come into that other office and I'm going to break you in half.
No, but this is me saying it who doesn't like any of the toppings that were on there. I actually enjoyed that.
Okay, good.
It's, not as crunchy as one might think because, like you said, you traveled 10 and a half hours, was on ice, you had to microwave it up. But the taste, the extra, pop from deep dish with the sauce on top was there. It just transported me back to my summer trip to Chicago with my family when I first tried deep dish, and it was delicious, even though I don't like red sauce in general. And I know I'm weird. Don't come at me in the comments. I understand.
You are a weirdo, bro.
Pesto sauce is the way to go on pizza. I'm just putting it out there. But that was really good.
Okay, back that up
very
now.
Solid bite. Yeah.
Back that up now with a bite. You can use your hand for this, for the legit. This is real. So people make the mistake of saying Chicago pizza is just deep dish. No, you're wrong, okay? You are a tourist when you are here just for the deep dish pizza. Our everyday pizza, as Kahn is showing on the screen now, is tavern style. It's bar pizza. It's square cut. It's thin crust.
This is Chicago pizza.
This is the delight. This is your everyday pizza. Deep dish is more of a novelty. You eat that quarterly.
Attack this. Okay.
So take a big bite. I give you a corner piece. I think there's a little bit of crust on there. Take a big bite, my man.
I'm trying to think about how I want to attack this. I'm just going to go for the middle. All right.
Don't spoil your lunch because you've got a lunch date in about 40 minutes or so. What do you think of that? Good texture, good sauce, good explosion. Again, really, you're not a red sauce guy.
What's the meat?
So the meat, I don't have any meat on there. I didn't do any sauce.
There's meat on there.
Okay, there's sauce. I did put sausage on that one. Yes.
The sausage hits right away. Kind of covers everything else, but it works.
Yeah.
Because black olives, peppers, muted kind of taste. The sausage really brings it all together with the cheese and the sauce. That was really good. I like the tavern style better than the deep dish. Thank you, my man.
I do too.
That was a good little precursor to my lunch.
So here's the thing. Out of convenience, I wasn't going to 2 different places. Normally, I wouldn't get deep dish from Aurelio's, but they got the best thin crust.
I went somewhere else to get deep dish when I was in Chicago, and it was definitely better than Aurelio's, but Aurelio's not bad. So the tavern style Aurelio's is my favorite of the two. Yeah.
Tavern style Aurelio's is the GOAT. It's undefeated. They've branched out throughout Chicagoland. There might be a location in Arizona or Florida at this point. But when people think Chicago, they always think deep dish, and it's Giordano's, it's Gino's East, it's Illuminati's, Pequod's, which is very underrated collectively. But you might have. somebody might have just seen recently, Kahn, what you had last year with your trip to Chicago when you took in a Cubs game against the Boston Red Sox. Pequod's was just voted the #1 pizza in America. And it might have been in the world. I think it was according to Yelp. So,
look, I get it. It was really good. That's where I went. I went to Pequod's, and it was delicious. That was where I had deep dish for the first time. It was very, very good.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed that experience, Con. I wanted to make sure, I didn't come back empty-handed for you. I miss you so damn much when I go out of town. So, we're back, baby.
We don't get to have our weekend ventures like we usually do.
I know. We're back, and we're back with a vengeance. So let's dive right in now. Again, it was a weird weekend. A lot of offense. What are people overreacting to? We'll talk about a little bit of that as David Kahn and yours truly, Kyle Schassburger here, return for Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. Before we get to Forrest Allen, the data analyst, data scientist with 643 charts, talk about the Diamond Sports ranking. God, I'm going to give you 10 teams, my power 10, my favorite 10. It may not line up necessarily with top 25 polls. There might be some similarities.
Mine doesn't.
Yeah, mine certainly doesn't. And I've got, and that's the point of this. These are the teams that I love the most, and I'm gonna judge harshly on a week-to-week basis. So we'll kind of see how our teams move, and who moves into our rankings. Often you see, the D1 baseball guys who, again, that ranking structure is adopted by the NCAA. You'll see it on their website. But there's not a lot of movement, even if a team drops a game or might drop a series, because, those bona fide top 3, top 5 teams, still the consensus is that they are better and they just had a bad weekend. Well, I'm going to punish teams. I'm going to punish a team like Florida. However, they only played one game, so I can't punish them too much, okay? They played only St. John's one time, lost 9-5. They didn't win any game this weekend. So
they're not in my power 10. I can tell you right now. They're not.
I'm keeping there only because of my boy Cags. I have to.
Yeah, Cags didn't even play. He didn't play.
He went 2 for 4 in this game. He hit. He didn't pitch.
He didn't pitch.
Yeah, he had a couple singles, but I got Florida. Who? What are they in the D1 poll? The top 25.
They're number 4.
What are they?
They're number 4.
Okay, so I actually got one
4 because Arkansas and LSU won their series, so they jumped ahead of Florida. Florida was the preseason 2. Now they're 4 because they only played one game and they lost.
Okay, so I've got Florida at number 3 behind Wake Forest 1, and my number 2 is Oregon State. Now, Wake Forest, you've already dropped a little bit of knowledge because you were there in Winston-Salem at the couch this past weekend.
I got much more.
You got to see the Deeks in the flesh. I'll give you my quick bullet points, and I'll do my first 5, and then you can come back and touch on clean up where you need to, and then give me your 5, and we'll see what matches. But Wake Forest outscored Fordham, Illinois, and Akron 28-8 over the weekend, only 4 home runs. And look, Bill Salento, the hitting coach, the associate head coach of Wake Forest, warned us about this on our pod. He's like, look, we may not have to be a power team, and they certainly did not have to be with the pitching they got over the weekend and far inferior opponents that they had at the couch. So Wake Forest, unanimous preseason number 1. They start 3-0 on their bid to get back to Omaha, seeking their first national championship since 1955. Oregon State, I have at 2. Pac-12 Player of the Week. This guy is a dude. Travis Bazana, 9 of 16, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, scored 6 runs as the Beavers went 3-0 this past weekend. They'll be going to Globe Life Field for some heavy-hitting matchups this weekend. More on that with the lineup card. Florida, as I mentioned, Cade Fisher, he got roughed up. There were a couple SEC pitchers that really got roughed up this weekend who we expected more from. Hagen Smith was another. I've got Arkansas.
Carter, Vanderbilt.
Yeah, is another as well. Hagen Smith, for example, with Arkansas, who I've got as my 6th team. Hagen Smith he got out of the first inning. That was it. He didn't even come back. But Cade Fisher with Florida, 2 innings, gave up 5 hits, 6 runs, and 54 total pitches. 54 total pitches, 6 runs in just 2 innings in that 9-5 loss for Florida. So Wake Forest, Oregon State, I'm still trusting what Florida can do. It's only one weekend. I'm not overreacting to the Gators. I know you have. Duke, how about the Dukies at number 4, Con? 34-11. They outscored, Coastal, Indiana, George Mason, whom they had beat. What was it, 25-2 in the middle game? They hit 11 home runs.
I think it was 25-3. Yeah.
25-3. I mean, it's just ridiculous. AJ Garcia,
George Mason was in a regional last year, Shaz.
They were. All those teams were in a regional, and Duke beat every single one of them. Remember, George Mason came to Winston. And here's the thing about Duke. I feel really strongly about Duke's bullpen and their upside this year. The bullpen didn't even necessarily have it outside of Charlie Bielenson. I mean, Bielenson. Yeah, they didn't. Santucci was awesome. He struck out, I think it was 8 and 5 innings or 7. Bielenson came in relief. Charlie He also had 7 Ks across 5 innings of relief over the weekend. Like, he was outstanding, but the bullpen didn't have to be as great. I think they will be as good as they were last year, if not better, and that's saying a lot. But the offense, man, I mean, they raked. And A.J. Garcia, freshman, had 3 home runs. Zach Morris transferred from VMI. He also had 3 home runs. So I love Duke's effort. And then I got LSU at number 5, Con. 27-5. 27-5, they outscored their opponents. What was it? VMI and Central Arkansas. They flipped there. They won 27-5 in one game, if I can read my handwriting. But then they only won games by 3-2 and 1 run. So they won tight games. They weren't necessarily convincing games over the weekend. Just the 27-5 one drubbing. My takeaway with LSU, and then you can take the baton here, Con. Luke Holman, phenomenal Tigers debut. 10 strikeouts, 5 1/3 innings in game 2 of that series. And that was in the blowout. However, Thatcher Hurd, your opening day starter, he struggled. But Luke Holman looked really good.
He did, and that's why I kind of went back and forth on whether LSU should be in my Power 10, because you had the same issue as last year. You had one good dude in Paul Skeens, and then after that, Ty Floyd was the number 2, and he was generally good, but then he didn't have a Sunday guy in Thatcher Hurd. This year, Jay Johnson, with their new pitching coach, says, okay, we're going to go with Thatcher Hurd as the opening day guy. We trust him to be that dude, and he wasn't. Luke Holman, I think, should have been the opening day starter. Maybe that'll flip. Maybe Jay is just, moving pieces around. But that was kind of why I wavered a little bit. LSU took care of business. Don't get me wrong. It was against VMI, but they took care of business. Okay, so my first 5 in the Power 10, I have 4 of the 5 that you did, not necessarily in the same order, but I don't have Florida. I didn't think it was right to put them in there. We didn't get a chance to see them at all. And that, yes, should that hurt them? Maybe not, but it also shouldn't help them. I saw one game, and they got boat raced by St. John's. Cade Fisher, who is like one of the stars of their run to the College World Series finals last year, got wrecked. We didn't see their new freshman, Liam Peterson, unfortunately. We didn't see the revamped Cags we've heard about in the offseason. So, they can get back in the Power 10 next week. But for this week, you don't get in. You lost your only game. The team I have in there instead of them, TCU. I am in love with the Horned Frogs right now. Horned Frogs obviously hosted a super regional last year, and that weird thing with Indiana State, went to Omaha, flamed out there. But TCU, Shass, their offense is insane. They scored 34 runs over the weekend against Florida Gulf Coast. I'm all over the Horned Frogs with what they can do at the bat or at the plate. And I'm really looking forward to the series that they have this weekend when they host UCLA, because the Bruins also put on an offensive showcase over the weekend against Gonzaga. So that's going to be a super fun series. I actually have TCU at 2 behind Wake Forest.
They gave up, Con. They scored how many runs? And then how
34.
many did they give up, though? They gave up like 25.
I know. I'm aware of that. But
you got them 2?
Yep.
Okay.
I have them at 2. The offense impressed me more than the fact that their pitching gave up 25 runs. First series of the year, pitchers are still getting, into their rhythm. Fine. Wake Forest is 1. You mentioned the Deeks only hit 4 home runs over the weekend. It was actually 5, because this is part of the weird stuff that happened over the weekend. Austin Hawk had a Little League home run in the bottom of the second in game 1 on Friday. And then game 2, he had a grand slam to the opposite field for his first home run as a Deke. So that was cool. It was Adam Tellier, who at the first pitch he saw in a Demon Deacon uniform in the bottom of the first to lead off the offense for Wake. First pitch, home run. Wow. How about that for a team that's not going to hit dingers? So Tellier hit one, Hawk with a grand slam, Nicky Nukes went deep, and Seaver King, who almost went deep on Saturday but hit it in the crosswind to left, smashed one to straightaway center on Sunday for his first home run as a Demon Deacon. So they've got pop. They're not a power hitting team, but they've certainly got pop. But Chase Burns was awesome. Josh Hartle was really, really good. Michael Massey, they're cautious with him. They only threw him 3 innings, 50-something pitches. He's going to need to, turn up the screws a little bit, because he was a little bit off. Some walks early, a couple wild pitches in the first few innings. I'm not sold on him back in the rotation yet, but 1 start, too small of a sample size. I like this team overall. I think they're solidly built. I think they can pitch with anybody in the nation. They brought in some freshmen out of the bullpen that were sensational. So really excited about the young pieces for Wake, especially with guys like Cole Rowland, Joe Areola still coming back from injuries. So overall, Wake has to stay number 1. Oregon State for me is number 3. Again, same thing as you. Travis, an absolute dude, Pac-12 player of the week. You said it all. Beavers are impressive. Duke, I also had at number 4, and LSU, I also had at number 5. So we mostly agreed. I put TCU in there. I know they give up a lot of runs, but that's my 5.
So TCU in there and drop Florida. Okay, here's 6 through 10 for me. I've got Arkansas. I was a little bit concerned Sunday when they dropped the game to James Madison. 4-game set, though, extending into the President's Day holiday. Trying to carve out some roles, knowing how the reigning SEC Coach of the Year, Dave Van Horn, operates. I wasn't going to be necessarily shocked that they dropped one game, trying to mix up the lineup and figure out what you have. That's what the non-conference is for. And really, even the SEC season, and figuring out who's going to be plugged where and who's going to hit and what spot and what arms are coming out of the bullpen. That's the beauty of college baseball this time of the year. Like, a lot of guys are going to get opportunities and reps as you try to round out your team and figure out who you're going to be able to ride come postseason time. So they lose the game to James Madison on Sunday, but they come back. Listen to this, Con. You want to talk about a broadcaster's delight, especially when you're the one running the board in studio, as my main man Zach DeBozart said eloquently in his post-broadcast email to your boy who helps to manage the Hawks. It went an hour, 35 minutes, and they were in the 7th inning. The game concluded after 2 hours and 8 minutes. A 4-0 Arkansas Game 4 win to avoid a split and take 3 out of 4 against the Dukes. They entered the let me say that again. They got into the 7th inning in an hour and 35 minutes. Much of this was due to a freshman left-hander making his debut in Colin Fisher, who looked really, really sharp. Hagen Smith, told you earlier, he really struggled. Just one inning. He threw 42 pitches. Gave up 3 earned runs, including a bomb. The opening day starter, preseason All-American, first team.
At least he's not hurt, right? Arkansas had their opening day guy get hurt the last 3 years and missed the year, so at least he's healthy.
Yeah, and they're dealing with that, again this year. So it's but they start 3-1. Still some questions about the offense, but some newcomers, some new faces really came through, and I think Arkansas is one of those teams that is really going to threaten again here in the SEC. New year, same Arkansas. Number 7, Texas A&M, 31-1. They outscored McNeese, 31-1. Jace Laviolette, 3 home runs.
You want to try that one again?
Laviolette.
There you go.
Okay,
yes.
There we go. Jace Laviolette. I haven't said these guys' names for a long time. Okay?
I know.
Cut me some slack. We've got to relearn all these players again. Screw you. I like him, too. He's freaking built like a basketball player.
Yeah.
The dude is tall.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. ECU, Jacob Jenkins-Cowart. He had 2 bombs, including one over the right center field scoreboard at ECU over the weekend. Much more on ECU a little bit later. Parker Burgess, an incredible story.
Amazing.
Getting a pinch hit at bat opportunity. First player to do so to play in a college baseball game with a prosthetic leg. We'll circle back to that one. Trey Savage, the ace who went on Friday. Struck out 8 in 4 innings. ECU looked really good over the weekend as they took care of business and went 3-0. TCU is my 9th team. So, I've got the Horned Frogs in there. Concerned with how many runs that they've given up over those 3 games in 25. But the guy I really love for TCU, did you mention Chase Brunson? You mentioned the offense, but Chase Brunson, this dude's a freshman, okay? 6 for 10, 2 home runs, walked 4 times, scored 7 runs, and had 4 RBIs. It's pretty good for a true freshman. So I don't care who you're playing. In Florida Gulf Coast, it's a warm weather team. Like, they should be able to recruit and have some decent talent. I mean, it's not the Big 12 or a Power 5 type school, but still, that's pretty good for a freshman. Reminds me a little bit of what AJ Garcia, a true freshman at Duke, was able to do. Is he had 3 bombs over the weekend. Then my 10th team, who I really liked, and this is a major jump comparatively to the top 25 polls here out of week 1, South Carolina. I don't know, man. Just, the way they concluded game 3, too, with a combined no-hitter. They had 5 pitchers, but, it was dominant. This no-hitter was 105 total pitches across 5 different guys. You talk about efficiency. The game went 241. South Carolina outscored Miami, Ohio 30-5 on the weekend and concluded that with a pretty dominant no-hitter. So South Carolina, that was a very, as we'll talk with Forrest Allen, it's a nice tease. I know you have your final 5 here, though, but Forrest Allen, the data analyst with 643 charts, as we dive more into the Diamond Sports ranking, we'll talk about an example of South Carolina, a team that, really peaked early and then tailed off towards the end of the season. The question becomes for Mark Kingston and them boys, them cocks, is if they can sustain this throughout the regular season.
Yeah, totally agree. So we, again, somewhat similar, but I had 3 teams in my bottom 5 that you did not mention. So let's get into them. Number 6, Arkansas, right below LSU. Number 7 also was Texas A&M. You've touched on those 2. I do want to bring up for A&M, you mentioned the offense. Let's talk about the pitching. They gave up 1 run the whole weekend. They gave up 1 run. Remember last year, Shass, when they had the 115th ranked staff ERA in the country?
Yeah.
1 run. That's the lowest total they've given up in a weekend series since 1918, when the curse of the Bambino was created for your boys Boston Red Sox. It's been a long time that they've only given up 1 run in a weekend series. So tip of the cap to former Mariners pitching coordinator and a friend of your boy, who's now the pitching coach at A&M, Max Weiner. That dude is legit. And as soon as I saw him go to A&M, I figured they would figure it out on the mound, even with losing the guys that they did. And they have, for now. So tip of the cap to A&M. My number 8, the Clemson Tigers. I was worried about Clemson's ability to hit the ball with the loss of a guy like Billy Amick, who went to Tennessee, and he performed really well for the Volunteers down in Arlington. But Clemson hit the ball. They still took care of business against Xavier over the weekend down in South Carolina. They scored a combined 33 runs, only allowed 13 in the 3-game sweep of the Musketeers. So Clemson not as concerned with Eric Bakic's squad anymore if they can put up numbers like that all season. Number 9, another team who just put on an offensive showcase, Alabama. Alabama, a lot of new pieces, new head coach and Rob Vaughn coming over from Maryland. Obviously, we've gotten a lot more details that came out about the Brad Bohannon situation. It's kind of comical at this point with how it went down. Like, I mean, the dude just wasn't careful. It's like he wanted to get caught, honestly. And it's bad. But they've moved on. Rob Vaughn came over from Maryland. Fantastic coach. Great hire from Alabama. And they put on a showcase, 30 runs versus Manhattan over the weekend. So really liked what I saw from Alabama. And then Indiana is going to round out my top 10, as they were the only team to jump into the top 25 rankings. Northeastern was bumped out after they dropped 2 of 3 to those teams down. Where did they drop 2 of 3? To Arizona, actually, in Tucson, which I think is a bit of an overreaction, but whatever. Sure. You have to make a move. Fine. Indiana in at 23. They're in my number 10. They played some really tough teams in George Mason, Duke, and Coastal Carolina, and Indiana went 2-1. The only loss went to Duke. So hat tip to the Hoosiers, who were kind of that number 2 team right below Iowa, who everyone's, going Brody Brecht, like let's look at this Iowa team and how well they can pitch. Well, give me Indiana to be a surprise team in the Big Ten that, could jump the Iowa Hawkeyes and maybe go for a Big Ten title this year.
If I could follow up with Alabama and the Brad Bohannon stuff before we get to Forrest Allen. So I just pulled up the story. I know this is some we wanted to touch on in some capacity, so let's just do it quickly to close the loop on this. So we learned through the investigation in early February that he had told a gentleman outside the Great American Ballpark, which we knew some of the details. They were a little bit fuzzy, but, let him know that. Was it Luke Holman? I can't remember for sure.
Yeah, so Luke Holman was the starter for Bama, but he was getting scratched.
He was getting scratched, and he texted the individual who was trying to place a $100,000 bet once he got this insider information, and that's what froze the whole thing, because typically the sports book isn't going to allow a wager. He was being limited to $15K, and this guy was all of a sudden trying to bet 6 figures, $100K, with this information from Bohannon. But he had said in a encrypted message on an encrypted app. Okay, this isn't
WhatsApp. Yeah, it was on WhatsApp. Yeah,
had said he texted, "Student athlete is out for sure. Let me know when I can tell." LSU, the opposing team.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's just incredible. So, there was a halt on the wager because it was suspicious, because it was a $100K bet that this dude was trying to place. And, the end game
demanding that they wanted, that he had to post that big of a wager, which, like, red flag, red flag, red flag. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he insisted that he had information. He basically was waving a flag. Yeah. He's like, I must place this bet. I mean, just stupid. So for Bohannon, what the NCAA came down on him for, or the penalties, if you will, 3 years probation, $5,000 fine, 15 years show cause for Bohannon, in which, and I'm reading from the NCAA website, during the show cause order, any employee, member, institution shall restrict Bohannon from any athletically related position. If Bohannon becomes employed during the show cause period, he shall be suspended for 100% of the baseball regular season for the first 5 seasons. Why would anybody ever hire the guy knowing that he can't even coach for 5 seasons? So
no, they won't. His career's over. And Alabama, showed that they, cooperated. They immediately, suspended Bohannon and then fired him. So they didn't get hit with much because they weren't involved. This was Brad Bohannon's doing. So, I think the NCAA got it right.
And then Alabama's being asked to provide, some reports moving forward to make sure certain protections are in place for the student athletes. So, all right, Connor, you ready to get to Forrest Allen? Can we do that?
Let's do it. Bring on the chat of the nerds. We're here.
Oh, Revenge of the Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds, baby.
Coming in 3D on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. It's Forrest Allen talking about the Diamond Sports Ranking. He's a data analyst, data scientist for 643 Charts. All right, coming out, we'll blow through this in over 10 minutes. We don't really need to say anything more about Forrest. We'll just say thank you, Forrest, and move on.
Yeah.
All right, in 3, 2, and 1. All right, thank you again to data scientist Forrest Allen with 643charts.com. Hopefully you enjoyed that. 643 Charts, find him on social, on Twitter, Instagram. Con and I went through that conversation. We learned quite a bit. It was certainly enlightening. So many thanks to Forrest. Hopefully you were able to learn, too, a little bit more on how the DSR might impact the future of evaluation in college baseball, even college softball, and individual player development as well. All right, Con, we got about 10 minutes left of the show. Dudes, hat tips, maybe a social display of affection. Look ahead to the weekend. Let's burn through this stuff. You wanna begin with some dudes?
Yeah, let's do some dudes. So my dude, it makes sense, but I'm gonna go with Chase Burns. I mean, he was just outstanding. He told us in the Wake Forest baseball takeover that he is the most competitive guy on the field, and it showed on Saturday. And one of the cool things that I did want to bring up from my time at the couch, or the boom box, as you like to call it,
the boom
Kyle
box.
Schassburger, is that so before every game they play kind of like a Zombie Nation style, not exactly Zombie Nation, but they play like a hype song. And when Tom Walter's at the plate meeting, all the players, when he's about ready to leave, they start like locking their arms around each other and just going like, oh, like getting all hyped up. And then Tom Walter, when he finishes the meeting, he skips over to the huddle, like literally skips, and hops in the middle, and they just start, bumping up around him before every game. I mean, this team is so tight. But the thing I want to point out about that was Chase Burns was in that huddle before he made the start. And I think that shows a lot about the fact that you're a starting pitcher and you're locked in, you're zoned in, and you still have time to go be with your teammates right before you make your first start with a new team back in the rotation with a lot of trust and a lot of expectations on you. So Chase Burns, my dude of the week, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. Sensational, hit 101. Burke Ranger from D1 was there over the weekend. He even said in the press box that he was impressed with Chase Burns and what he showed. His slider was like over 3,000 RPMs. I mean, just good luck. You're not going to hit that. So he was really, really solid. There was another moment in Chase Burns' outing, actually, that I did want to bring up. So Chase Burns only pitched 6 innings. He got into some trouble. He gave up back-to-back hits to start the 6th inning, got an out, and then gave up a walk. And Tom Walter walked out to the mound, and I was like, oh, they're going to go get him. Like, he's got 1 out. He's loaded the bases. Like, they're going to yank him. They're going to bring in a reliever. No. Tom Walter walked out to the mound, slapped Chase Burns on the backside, and turned right back around and walked back to the dugout, basically saying, you got it, kid. Like, didn't even stop moving. Just walked up, hit him, walked right back. Next pitch, double play, inning over.
That's
like,
awesome. The
confidence and the boldness to just be like, I believe in you. You got it. Boom. 4-6-3, inning over. Done. That was so eye-opening to me of how tight-knit and how much trust there is from the staff to the players and the other way around. There's so much mutual respect there. So I had to bring that up because it was so cool to see.
Yeah, super revealing of the trust, especially, what's amazing is, Chase Burns has only been there since August, or end of July, but to understand, to know, like Tom Walter, he's well aware of what Chase Burns is capable of, and his decision to come, to Wake Forest, provide himself a change of scenery, get a fresh start after moving, out of the rotation into the bullpen, and the way Vitello was using him at Tennessee, it just didn't mesh with what Chase felt he was capable of, and he wasn't willing to undergo a redefined role. And he knew he was better. He gambled. He bet on himself. And everybody knew he had the talent from his freshman year, freshman of the entire year nationally. According to D1 Baseball. And now he's in Winston-Salem, working behind Josh Hartle, and we'll see if Michael Massey can live up to what Wake Forest and the Demon Deacons are expecting in him, man. But man, Chase Burns, certainly a dude from the weekend. Mine is Matt Massiangelo. So This guy who plays for Sacramento State, he's a Cal State Bakersfield transfer. He's in his first year with Sac State, was hit by a pitch 8 times in 9 plate appearances over the weekend. So, of course, that's worthy of not only being a dude in my book, but it might get you recognition out of the all Shass squad. So we'll have to see.
Oh, yeah, we got to redo that.
When we decide to roll that back out officially. We might wait until we get into March. But, yeah, the all Shass squad, the ass team, Massiangelo certainly might have first dibs on that for his ability. And he's not like a huge – like he's 5'11", 190. He's my size. Now, I understand I could be perceived as a big guy, but, like, this isn't some monstrous individual. Like, this guy he's a left-handed hitter who's just hanging over the plate, maybe a little bit too much. And really, he should have been hit 9 times, but the ump put him back in the box and called a strike on him. So, and previously in his entire career, from what I could tell, he had barely been hit. But he was hit 3 times in one game, 4 in another, and then 1 in the third game of the weekend. So that's worthy of being a dude for me. All right, hat tip. I want to go back to Greenville. Parker Bird. Folks who are listening to this podcast or who follow college baseball should be familiar at this point. Kahn, you and I talked about the story a little bit last year. So involved in a horrific boating accident summer of 22 in July. He came into ECU, was recruited as what was a top 100 shortstop, was set to embark on his freshman season last year. He's now a sophomore, and what he had to endure since being a part of a horrific accident that caused his right leg to be amputated. What followed was 22 surgeries in 45 days. And you just think of all the surgeries, all the rehab, all the recovery that was involved in this young man's life, who probably was contemplating his own life at times. I mean, why wouldn't you when you had these aspirations to come to ECU and be a college baseball player who can make a difference, and all of a sudden you at age 18, you've lost your leg. To know what he was able to overcome, to earn back a position with this team, as Cliff Godwin had said, look, we're just not going to give him a spot on the team. We want to honor his scholarship, but you've got to earn it. And for him to work his way back and earn a pinch hit opportunity on Friday in ECU's win, first player ever with a prosthetic leg to compete in a college baseball game, just incredible. In front of a school record crowd as well, 5,221 for an opening day crowd at Clark LeClaire Stadium.
He got a hit, cool. Right?
No, he walked. So he took a strike.
I thought he got a hit. Okay.
Took a strike and then four straight balls. I don't know how, if you're the pitcher, I mean, you would think, you would think you can't sleep at night if you're just walking the dude,
Yeah.
Maybe you felt like you were doing him a disservice. I don't think that was intentional.
I don't think so either. It looked like a legitimate at bat. Yeah. From the first couple pitches I saw, it looked like he wasn't trying to miss on purpose.
Yeah, the umpire told Cliff Godwin too, look, I've been umpiring 17, 18 years. This is the coolest thing that I'd ever seen. And certainly everybody in attendance, all 5,221 would have to agree. Bird even got a shout out from Jim Abbott, who in 1993 threw a no-hitter for the New York Yankees, who was born without his right hand. So just so cool, Con.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up and follow it up with. With those of you who don't know, you mentioned Jim Abbott, born without a right hand, played in the major leagues from 1989 to 1999, won a gold medal, Golden Spikes Award winner in 1987. I didn't know that, by the way. I just saw that a little bit ago. A no-hitter in 1993 as well. And he retweeted Parker Bird saying, that's cool. I mean, how about that? After an emotional weekend, his parents were in town. They saw, him come to the plate. And then to have Jim Abbott, like a major league legend for being born without a right hand and still being successful at the major league level, to retweet you. Like, that's so cool. Like, what an absolutely incredible story. Glad that Parker Bird has made it back to playing baseball, and I hope he has a good season. That's just heartwarming stuff, amazing stuff. We'll go to my hat tip. It's a two-way street. It is 2 coaches who hit milestones this weekend in their head coaching careers. We haven't talked about NC State yet. They took care of business over the weekend. Quick little 3-0 work for the Wolfpack. And they their head coach, Elliott Avent, 1,000 career victories as a head coach. So a tip of the cap to Elliott Avent and Tom Walter on Saturday for Wake Forest when they won game 2 against Illinois, arguably their toughest game of the weekend. They got Tom Walter his 850th career victory as a head coach. Not at Wake Forest. It was 422 at Wake. But overall, 850 in 28 years as a head coach. So hat tip to Elliott Avent for 1,000 and to Tom Walter for 850, which, Shass, if the Deacs are going to win 50 games a year plus, I mean, Tom Walter will be there in 3 years. So he'll be creeping on Avent's doorstep in a matter of moments.
And if that happens, Walter would be the 6th active head coach if those other coaches are still coaching, because Avent became the 5th active coach to reach 1,000 wins with a single school over the weekend. Notable mentions for hat tips. How about the SEC new head coaches combined to go 8-1? Carrick Jackson at Mizzou, just 1 loss, 2 wins. Rob Vaughn, Wes Johnson, both go 3-0. Charlie Condon for Georgia started, I think, each of the 3 games at different positions. By the way, Con. Lehigh, no Big Ten win since 2008, entering a weekend. They beat 2 Big Ten teams over the weekend. And you sent me this on the Twitter machine, which, again, I'm at Kyle Schass, Con at SportsCon4. It's Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. We're in 3D. Garrett Ferguson with Missouri State took a comebacker off the head that resulted in a double play. So hat tip to that man, like literally a tip of the cap to that man being able to walk off the field and for an inning-ending double play to ensue off the dome piece. That's just incredible.
And did you see the reaction that he had? He had no idea. Like he took one off the head, went down, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, the inning's over. Let's go!" Like he's totally fine. Like immediately okay. Like we're good. We're off the field. So yeah, that was amazing. You got anything more? I got to empty the notebook too.
Yeah, empty the notebook and give us a lineup card because you got all the notables. But the Wang Bang from Boston College with Nick Wang, the sophomore, 2 home runs, 11 last year.
Dingers.
You talk about a social display of affection, and we want to highlight that here on Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. And Nick Wang with 2 of the most important dingers of the weekend because he got some social praise. The Wang Bang for bird ball. Yes, I'm here for it.
I love it. I am so here for the Wang Bang all year. Might have to work that into a home run call down in Hoover. I don't know if it'll make sense. We got to do it organically, but it may happen. Yeah, let me empty the notebook here. Big tip of the cap, by the way, to South Carolina. Meant to mention this. Tossed a no-no on a Sunday. First weekend of the series. South Carolina closes out that series with a no-hitter. So tip of the cap to those boys and Mark Kingston against Miami of Ohio. There was a 1-6 triple play in Arlington between Oklahoma and Tennessee. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yes. There was a 1-6 triple play.
Tennessee not present in our Power 10, by the way. We'll see that next week.
No. We got to go. I did mean to mention TCU down 9-3 in their opener of the season in the 7th. Came back and won 10-9 on a catching error.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. Of course, Peyton Chanier is the guy to come in and score on that. Duh. But West Virginia, in their finale, that series was ravaged by rain. They played Stetson down in the weekend in DeLand, Randy Mazey's final season. They had a 2-run squeeze bunt in the 9th inning of the finale to win the game.
Holy
against
moly.
Stetson. Yeah.
2-run
that is Mazey ball. That is Mazey ball at its finest. It is back.
Shouts to Mazey, who joined the program last year. Good dude.
He did. Now, that was in the top of the 9th. They didn't walk it off that way, but they won the game. 2-run squeeze bunt in the 9th. Amazing. Mazey ball in full force. His final year as the head coach of West Virginia. He'll stay on as an advisor in 2025. Steve Sabins will take over as the head man. How about this? Ole Miss starting their season on the islands in Hawaii. NC State going there this weekend, but Ole Miss, their opener, 11:35 a.m. Eastern first pitch. 13 innings to beat Hawaii. Our man Dave Pulaski was in the studios. He didn't get out of the building until 5:35 a.m. Eastern.
So that was 11 p.m. What was it, 11:30 p.m.?
11:30 p.m. Eastern, so 10:30 local time for the folks in Oxford. So yikes. And then how about this for extra innings? Washington and Long Beach State. Huskies drop the first 2 to the Dirtbags and then go 17 innings in the finale, and it ends in a tie because they had to leave. They couldn't play another inning. So they end up going 0-2-1 in the series against Long Beach State, but they went 17 big ones and tied it at 3 apiece. So, oh no.
Yeah, super unfortunate, but you knew you had the flight. You knew you had to get out of there, and that's like playing 2 games, with no break in between. Just, bad timing for our boy. That's our old the LSU old pitching or hitting coach is the head coach of the Huskies, right? I forget what's his name. Matt. Hang on. Jason Kelly. Yeah, Jason Kelly, who followed Johnson from Arizona to LSU. Yeah, Jason Kelly.
Yep. Last one from the Emptying the Notebook. You were listening a little bit to this on Sunday because I know you had me dialed in as you're on your drive home. Dude, there were 8,000 action clock violations on Sunday. I've never seen an umpire be more jazzed up to point at his damn left wrist and be like, time, ball. Yeah. Like that guy was into it. I mean, I was over it. I was ready to play hangman every time he did a freaking action clock violation. He was just staring at the clock like 3, 2, 1, time, ball.
Hey, hangman, like,
bro,
don't besmirch hangman as a broadcaster.
No.
I would do that as with Enrique Bradfield Jr. when he was getting.
That's where I got it from. That's exactly where I got it from. I said it on the air because I remembered you doing that in Hoover.
But look, there has to be an emphasis with the action clock. Early on, we saw this a year ago too. You know, they've got to tighten that leash hard opening weekend.
They do, but like it ruined the flow of the game. Just
okay. What are we looking at?
I was trying to get out of there because I had to go call the women's game. So thank God for the run rule on Sunday. So
yeah,
that umpire was on my shit list. Like I was ready to be like, bro, stop.
Okay, my favorite series coming up this weekend is the UNC and ECU one. You play one in Chapel Hill, one in a neutral in the state, and then you play in Greenville on Sunday. That's already sold out for the Pirates. UCLA's at TCU. That should be a good one as well, right, Con? And then take us through what else we should be looking for here on the lineup card.
Yeah, that should be a good one because we're watching UCLA as a team to potentially, emerge as a actual contender this year. They just were bevied by injuries a season ago. Of course, they're taking on a team in TCU that went to Omaha a year ago and is retooled again, as we mentioned. Both offenses are solid. Should be a showcase down there in Fort Worth. 2 more big tournaments to watch. You got the Kubota College Baseball Series in Arlington. You got Oregon State, who we already gave a lot of praise to at 4-0. Arkansas 2-1 series win over JMU. Michigan coming off a 2-2 split of Western Michigan and Phoenix, which gross that series was played there, but whatever. And then Oklahoma State, talk about gross. They went 1-2 over the weekend as they opened at Sam Houston State.
Gross.
Oklahoma State opened on the road at Sam Houston State in Huntsville. Yuck. So good luck to the Cowboys. Jacksonville Classic as well. We have Virginia at 3-0, Auburn at 3-0, Wichita State at 2-1, and Iowa at 2-1. So that should be a really fun series. A lot of pitching in that series. We'll be interested to see how much offense we get out of those 4 teams over the weekend. But that's what I'm watching. And weekend 2. Here we go, baby. Let's do it.
I hope our boy Rex Holt at OK State has better baseball to call this weekend. Heckle Hope Life. Love me some Rex Holt. Inject it into my veins and let me use that as a platform and a springboard to promote the Varsity Network app. Make sure you download that. All men's basketball, women's basketball, part of the Learfield family of schools. You can find that. Baseball, of course, as well. There's so much. Get the Varsity Network app today. Hopefully big things come down the pipe, too, as we inch closer to the postseason. So David Kahn and myself, Kyle Schassburger, we will be here to recap the second weekend in college baseball coming up a week from now. So that's it, Kahn, right? You got to run to lunch?
We're good. I'm out.
Okay. It was fun, man. He's David Kahn at SportsCon4 on X. On Twitter, I'm at Kyle Schass. On Twitter, we're in 3D each and every week. Podcast dropping on Tuesdays here through the basketball season as part of the College Sports Now family of podcasts. Has been Dugouts, Dumbbells, and Dingers. Bye.